Chapter 5 of Freckles. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Freckles by Gene Stratton Porter. Chapter 5. Wherein an angel materializes and a man worships. Perhaps there was a breath of sound Freckles never afterward could remember, but for some reason he lifted his head as the bushes parted and the face of an angel looked between. Saints, nymphs, and fairies had floated down his cathedral aisle for him many times, with forms and voices of exquisite beauty. Parting the wild roses at the entrance was beauty of which Freckles had never dreamed. Was it real, or would it vanish as the other dreams? He dropped his book, and rising to his feet, went a step closer, gazing intently. This was real flesh and blood. It was in every way kin to the Limberlost, for no bird of its branches swung with easier grace than this dainty young thing rocked on the bit of morass on which she stood. A sapling beside her was not straighter or rounder than her slender form. Her soft waving hair clung around her face from the heat and curled over her shoulders. It was all of one piece with the gold of the sun that filtered between the branches. Her eyes were the deepest blue of the iris, her lips the reddest red of the foxfire, while her cheeks were exactly of the same satin as the wild rose petals caressing them. She smiled at Freckles in perfect confidence, and she cried, "Oh, I'm so delighted that I've found you." The wildly leaping heart of Freckles burst from his body and fell in the black swamp muck at her feet with such a thud that he did not understand how she could avoid hearing. He really felt that if she looked down she would see. Incredulous, he quavered, And was you looking for me?" "I hoped I might find you," said the Angel. "You see, I didn't do as I was told, and I'm lost. The Bird Woman said I should wait in the carriage until she came back. She's been gone hours. It's a perfect Turkish bath in there, and I'm all lumpy with mosquito bites. Just when I thought I couldn't bear it another minute, along came the biggest Papilio Ajax you ever saw. I knew how pleased she'd be, so I ran after it. It flew so slow and so low that I thought a dozen times I had it. Then all at once it went from sight above the trees, and I couldn't find my way back to save me. I think I've walked more than an hour. I've been mired to my knees. A thorn raked my arm until it's bleeding, and I'm so tired and warm." She parted the bushes farther. Freckles saw that her blue cotton frock clung to her, limp with perspiration. It was torn across the breast. One sleeve hung open from shoulder to elbow. A thorn had torn her arm until it was covered with blood, and the gnats and mosquitoes were clustering around it. Her feet were in lace hose and low shoes. Freckles gasped. In the Limberlost, in low shoes! He caught an armful of moss from his carpet and buried it in the ooze in front of her for footing. "Come out here so I can see where you're stepping. Quick, for the life of you!" he ordered. She smiled on him indulgently. "Why?" she inquired. "Did anyone let you come here and not be telling you of the snakes?" urged Freckles. "We met Mr. McLean on the corduroy, and he did say something about snakes, I believe. The Bird Woman put on leather leggings, and a nice parboiled time she must be having. Worst dose I ever endured, and I'd nothing to do but swelter." "Will you be coming out of there?" groaned Freckles. She laughed as if it were a fine joke. "Maybe if I'd be telling you I killed a rattler curled on that same place you're standing, as long as me body and the thickness of me arm, you'd be moving where I could see your footing," he urged insistently. "What a perfectly delightful little brogue you speak," she said. "My father is Irish, and half should be enough to entitle me to that much. Maybe if I'd be telling you," she imitated, rounding and accenting each word carefully. Freckles was beginning to feel a wildness in his head. He had derided Wessner at that same hour yesterday. Now his own eyes were filling with tears. "If you were understanding the danger," he continued desperately. "Oh, I don't think there is much." She tilted on the morass. "If you killed one snake here, it's probably all there is near. And anyway, the Bird Woman says a rattlesnake is a gentleman and always gives warning before he strikes. I don't hear any rattling. Do you?" "Would you be knowing it if you did?" asked Freckles almost impatiently. How the laugh of the young thing rippled. "Would I be knowing it?" she mocked. "You should see the swamps of Michigan, where they dump rattlers from the marl dredgers 3 and 4 at a time." Freckles stood astounded. She did know. She was not in the least afraid. She was depending on a rattlesnake to live up to his share of the contract and rattle in time for her to move. The one characteristic an Irishman admires in a woman, above all others, is courage. Freckles worshipped anew. He changed his tactics. "I'd be pleased to be receiving ye at me front door," he said. "But as ye have arrived at the back, will ye come in and be seated?" He waved toward a bench. The Angel came instantly. "Oh, how lovely and cool!" she cried. As she moved across his room, Freckles had difficult work to keep from falling on his knees, for they were very weak, while he was hard driven by an impulse to worship. "Did you arrange this?" she asked. "Yes," said Freckles simply. "Someone must come with a big canvas and copy each side of it," she said. "I never saw anything so beautiful. How I wish I might remain here with you. I will some day if you will let me. But now, if you can spare the time, will you help me find the carriage? If the Bird Woman comes back and I'm gone, she will be almost distracted." "Did you come on the west road?" asked Freckles. "I think so," she said. "The man who told the Bird Woman said that was the only place the wires were down. We drove away in, and it was dreadful, over stumps and logs, and we mired to the hubs. I suppose you know, though. I should have stayed in the carriage, but I was so tired I never dreamed of getting lost. I suspect I will be scolded finely. I go with the Bird Woman half the time during the summer vacations. My father says I learn a lot more than I do at school, and get it straight. I never came within a smell of being lost before. I thought at first it was going to be horrid, but since I found you, maybe it will be good fun after all." Freckles was amazed to hear himself excusing. "It was so hot in there. You couldn't be expected to bear it for hours and not be moving. I can take you around the trail almost to where you were. Then you can sit in the carriage, and I will go find the Bird Woman." "Oh, you'll be killed if you do. When she stays this long, it means that she has a focus on something. You see, when she has a focus and lies in the weeds and waters for hours, and the sun bakes her and things crawl over her, and then someone comes along and scares her bird away just as she has it coaxed up, why, she kills them. If I melt, you won't go after her. She's probably blistered and half eaten up, but she will never quit until she is satisfied." "Then it will be safer to be taken care of you," suggested Freckles. "Now you're talking sense," said the Angel. "May I try to help your arm?" he asked. "Have you any idea how it hurts?" she parried. "A little," said Freckles. "Well, Mr. McLean said we'd probably find his son here." "His son?" cried Freckles. "That's what he said, and that you would do anything you could for us, and that we could trust you with our lives. But I would have trusted you anyway, if I hadn't known a thing about you. Say,